Thanks, guys. But I'm not done being angry yet. Oh boy, was this episode bearing down on me like a runaway freight train. An appropriate simile, since watching this week's subject feels like being repeatedly struck by a large unwieldy vehicle that's already claimed a loved one. But it was always coming. My meeting with fate. The third Tenchi Muyo OVA. What a colossal betrayal of everything that had come before it! A molten hot bile rises in me just thinking of it. So let's get through this mess before I start a war with these sky people by obliterating this city in my rage. I have to admit, as I began to in my review of the second OVA, Tenchi Muyo doesn't really hold up all that well, all things considered. Tenchi himself is fairly bland and unremarkable, with the actual main characters seeming to be Ryoko and Ayeka, though eventually Washu takes over the whole thing, and probably for the best. The humor is pretty muted, and there's not nearly enough action given the powers of the characters, and while there's loads of potential in its setup and world building, that potential remains mostly inert. I think that's why for a long time I actually preferred the TV series, Tenchi Universe, because it thrust itself forward instead of desperately looking to maintain status quo. The second OVA's conclusion, at least, gave me some untread ground I was eager to journey over, though. It was just that the wait for the next part was excruciatingly long. 9 years! 9 years before we got to see Tenchi, Ryoko, Ayeka, Sasami, Mahoshi, and Washu in a new adventure in Misaki Kajishima's playground. And what did we get? A crime against humanity! As you might recall, OVA 2 ended with a visit to Earth by the king of Jirai, Azusa, and his two queens, Funaho, Yosho's mother, and Misaki, Ayeka and Sasami's mother. Washu promised not to make another Ryoko. It was shown that Yosho's true form is a lot younger looking than he lets on, that Ryoko's jewels have the same sort of power Tenchi has, and that Lady Tokumi has a minion who can use 5 Lighthawk wings. Well, the stage was set for a lot of intergalactic power struggles. It's too bad, then, that the best we got in OVA 3 is a jumbled mess of nonsense you need to have read the true Tenchi novels to get. And even then, it's still awful. But hey, at least we got a lot of new characters who add nothing at all to the mix. And that's just like development in progress, right? Right? The third Tenchi OVA sees the attempt to broaden Tenchi's world with the introduction of several new characters, most of them tied in with the Jiraiyan royal family in some way, and none of them particularly interesting, and some of them outright contradicting established continuity, and all of them taking up time that could be used to develop the existing characters. So yeah, they're all pretty worthless. Tenchi's new adventure begins with the news that his father, Nobuyuki Misaki, is engaged to a longtime family friend, Rei, who, assists Nobuyuki with architecture work, works for the government. It's not really clear, but apparently she's always been part of the Misaki family's life, even though, in the 13 episodes before this, we never saw or heard about her. You would think this would open up some avenues for our tan, blandy hero, emotionally, trying to wrestle with his father's remarrying. But no, he's just fine with it already. And that Rei surely she'll become an important element to the events of the story, right? Nope! We don't see her again until much later. Brilliant writing! Well, at least there's a new, intriguing, dynamic character in Tenchi's never-before-seen until now sister Tenyo, who looks identical to his dead mother. Yet somehow, Tenchi just up and plumb forgot that he had an older sister, despite her having largely raised him, maybe because she's identical to his mom, and somehow she's in her 80s because why not? Certainly having her around while his father gets remarried will result in all kinds of awkwardness and character building, right? Nope! Tenyo is entirely irrelevant to the rest of the events of the OVA. But at least she's there to introduce our next new character. Meet Tenchi's grandmother, Airi. Yeah, not sure how Tenchi never thought to ask his grandfather Yosho about his grandmother, but he did, and guess what? She's also an alien, and their marriage was set up by the royal court matchmaker Sato, even though Yosho fled from Jirai to avoid the obligations of royalty, and Funaho implied at the end of the second OVA that he stayed on Earth because of a woman he met there. Oh, also, Tenchi's grandma flirts with him, and then jets off with his sister not to be seen again until the very end of the OVA. Aren't we so lucky to be graced with these new characters? Why waste time developing characters the audience already loves, like Ryoko or Washu, when instead we could just jam in as many new ones that do nothing? Characters like... Noike. Noike. Introduced as Tenchi's fiancée by way of royal marriage set up by Sato. She's the earnest, hardworking, responsible adult that the other ladies in the house aren't. She's an expert cook, she can handle Mahoshi since she's her old Galaxy Police partner, and she's a sensitive, kind soul with no discernible quirks or, indeed, personality. And people call Rey from the new Star Wars movies a Mary Sue. The biggest flaw of Tenchi Muyo OVA 3, in my opinion, is this utter waste of a character. She's pretty much just a watered-down Keone Makibi from the TV series. Like with the other new characters, they don't really do anything with Noike, except that, at least with Tenyo and Airi, they know to shuffle them off as the waste they are. They keep Noike around, but never actually give her an arc. She's just that great at everything yet super bland Tenchi love interest who has no chemistry with anyone. Fuck Noike. Garbage character.
We'll continue our discussion a little later. Right now we should all pitch in and help with lunch.
Why?
And when this OVA isn't thoroughly wasting space and time introducing new characters that do and add nothing, it's wasting time and space, frankly, just doing the same prepare for dinner, work in the field, paint by number, argument rigmarole we got in the first two OVAs, when it could actually be fleshing out any of these characters. Ooh, there's an episode where Tenchi collapses from overwork and Noike takes care of him. How original. Can't we get the return of Azusa, who basically swore vengeance on Tenchi for beating his chosen fiancé for Ayeka? Why do we have to waste time with Mahoshi's brother's little subplot that goes nowhere? Oh yeah, there's another dynamic character introduced for us, Mahoshi's brother Misao, with his precious sister complex. Because of an email Mahoshi sent him that was rewritten by the antagonist Z to stir the pot, Misao is determined to go and destroy the Earth, regardless of there being Jorian royalty living there. He takes his giant golf ball ship and looses his minions to provoke a battle that will make the planet's destruction look accidental, but his group is pathetically easily taken down by Tenchi's residents. 2 episodes of this! 2! And an OVA that's already wasted the first 3 episodes doing a whole lot of nothing! Mahoshi barely even interacts with her brother in these episodes. Also, was anyone even looking to know Mahoshi's family? Who asked for this, Kajishima? Who is the audience for this? You introduce a guy who could use 5 Lighthawk wings, and we get stuck with Mahoshi's brother for 2 episodes? Where is your sense of proportion? Hey, remember when this show was, at the very least, tangentially about Tenchi Masaki? Or at least about Ryoko and Ayeka? They might as well not even be in this thing! Fuck this OVA! This thing is horrendous! Did this pile of refuse really take 9 years to dream up? Looking at it on paper, it looks like something a kid scribbled down just before their paper was due. And the execution is even worse! Why am I wasting my life watching bad sequels to old anime that don't even hold up well themselves? And why does Tenchi's sister have to be 80? Why does his whole family have to be long-lived? Surely most of them are humans. I thought the only reason Yosho was so long-lived is because he still has his ship tree. Why not just have Nobuyuki be a regularly aging Earthling and Tenyo be in her 30s? What's the purpose of this? And don't get me started on the character assassination of Tenji's mom later on. Ugh. I'll get to it. It's rough. Let's talk about our main antagonist, Z. He's by far the most powerful villain in Tenchi history, able to use 5 Lighthawk wings. But he spends most of his time on the sidelines until he becomes almost as fed up as me and takes a huge chunk out of Earth, challenging Tenchi. His motivation seems to be, he wants to kill Tenchi so he can... Oh, it has something to do with his tragic past, when he was in a war where his family died, and Tokimi plucked him out of the situation, and now he, wait, why does he want to kill Tenchi again? Oh, right. Ultimate power. Which he practically already has. Honestly, the climactic battle in this OVA is a bunch of random nonsense thrown together that makes End of Evangelion seem more streamlined. Just look at all this shit they're throwing at you. You've got Tsunami and Tokimi, doing something, and Washu regaining her memory of being one of the Chosen goddesses, to absolutely no fanfare whatsoever, like it was a big nothing. Then there's... whatever this shit is. What the fuck? And then a little girl and... Seriously, who wrote this? Kajishima, who did you get to write this? Apparently the same person who wrote Trigun, Gungrave, Gundam 00, and Excel Saga. All anime I like. Well, I guess he's entitled to a mulligan. But man, this is... There are just no words for how bad this is. Who is the director? The guy who directed the second Tenchi OVA. What happened to this guy? What the fuck is the counter-actor, and why is it Misaki? And how did Z find it, and how did he keep it from Tokimi, and why can it subdue her? And why does Tenchi kissing her calm her down, and where does she go when she disappears, and... For fuck's sake! Then they're erasing Z from the timeline and restarting time itself to get to that point without Z's interference. Why did they need to reset time for that? They just wasted Z! I mean, sure, Tenchi took out Kagato pretty quickly, but at least there was a fight. And with Clay, it was more of a psychological game, but Z had so much potential to be an existential threat to everyone, and he just gets turned into a baby after no real conflict. And after all the revelations that should shake the very foundation of all the inhabited planets in the universe, spiritually and politically, they all just go back to pulling exaggerated faces at each other and talking more about Mahoshi's fucking brother! That's not even as dumb as it gets. So, after our final episode spends the first 9 or so minutes on Mahoshi's brother, we get to the portion of the climax where Tenchi's sister and grandma reappear along with Nobuyuki's fiancée Rei, for the OVA's full-on assault on Tenchi's mother. You didn't see Tenyo Airi or Rei for several episodes. Now they're suddenly back and still manage to do basically nothing. But at least Yosho and Nobuyuki do. They tell Tenchi the story of how his mother passed. Well, stories, plural. There's a long series of incidents recalled that seem like they explain her demise, but she always ends up surviving until she finally dies of old age, having been 248 at the time. Of course, it turns out that Kiyone, that's her name in this continuity, had scripted the whole tale for Yosho and Nobuyuki, and this incenses a disbelieving Tenchi. But Rei explains to him that, yeah, Kiyone was an old prankster, and Tenchi misremembered because he was just a little child who only saw the best in her. This would ring a lot truer if this was at all hinted at and didn't just come out of nowhere. As it is, it just comes off as completely defaming the few glimpses we had of Tenchi's mom from the previous two OVAs. They could have made this work, but as always, couldn't, because of terrible execution. It seems downright cruel. Oh, and then Tenchi suddenly realizes the person who was really there for him the most was Rei, the character who was barely in this OVA, and wasn't in the previous two. Oh, and guess who helped him come to this conclusion? Why, Noike, of course! And then, the true fucking evil of this OVA.
Chibi fucking Tokimi.
So Tokimi goes from this regal, dignified, enigmatic figure, this shadowy, sacred presence, this larger-than-life distorter of space and time, who's one of the three who created the universe and has unknown plans for Tenchi and the gang, to a cutesy little floating goblin everybody can casually joke with, as if they're not around one of the creators of the universe. To rub extra salt in the wound, we find out that Z had been spying on the group through Noike's eyes using, the little girl from before, who turns out to be the female aspect of Kagato, having been separated from him previously being a hermaphrodite, and marked by Dr. Clay, because why not? And Tenchi had traveled back in time earlier, comforting her, so now she's really grateful to him, and is planning on assimilating with Noike, for some reason not gotten into. Why is this necessary? Why is any of this necessary?
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
What was the damn point of all this? All these new characters that do nothing, and all these new concepts that go unexplained, while old characters are literally tied up so that they don't interfere with this great big nothing. It's like this was intentionally written like a Springtime for Hitler situation, where the production staff was hoping we'd all hate it. This could not have been created by people who give a single shit about this franchise. It's like something you write out of spite. I keep expecting Poochie to suddenly die on his way back to his home planet. And it's not as though there wasn't any potential here. Having Tenchi sort out his feelings about his mother and his father remarrying while his sister, who looks just like his mother, lives at the house would be an interesting angle. Ryoko becoming closer to Ryo-Oki instead of just mostly using her as a vehicle. Ayeka jealous of Ayiri marrying Yosho when she wanted to. The line between Sasami and Tsunami getting thinner. Washu putting the pieces of her past together and realizing her great destiny. Even Nuike could have had an arc with Mahoshi where they reconnect after having been partners in the GXP and then separated, and dealing with Mahoshi's past and why she had her breakdown. These things could have worked. Even if you want to include that Tenchi's mother wasn't all she seemed, it could have still worked if they had tried. Look, I'm not going to say because events in this didn't work out like my ideas, it was bad. Those things didn't need to happen for this to be good, but something needed to happen. Something solid. Something funny and sweet and enjoyable. And nothing like that happened. Instead, we got a lot of fluff, followed by a lot of abstract nonsense, followed by even more fluff.
Right now, you're probably wondering what all the fuss is about. Shinju sake is a wine made from the trunks of the royal family's trees. The quality of the flavor and the ingredients allows for the production of only a small amount, and the only wine available for drinking is the one bottle presented to the head of state each year. Shinju sake isn't typically for sale, but the one time a bottle was put up for auction, it went for the price of a single planet. So you see, it's a drink normally enjoyed by only the rich and powerful. It's unheard of for mere commoners to even see it, much less taste even a single drop of this legendary wine, yet here it is, as much as they can drink.
Nobody cares!
Is it really any surprise that nobody is talking about the fourth OVA? Because I'm not alone here. Fans were at best ambivalent about the third OVA. It doesn't even feel like Tenchi Muyo. The character designs, music, and atmosphere are too big a departure. Look, I understand that a lot of what confused me is explained in the true Tenchi novels. I get that. It's a cross-pollination media franchise. But if you're going to introduce elements from the books into the anime, you have to actually incorporate them in a way that makes sense to the people who only watch the anime. I'm sorry, but I shouldn't have to read the books to watch the anime. Nobody should have to. And frankly, I can't imagine the books making up for the trash that was this OVA. A crate full of magic blowjob machines couldn't make up for it. This anime fucking blows. Maybe Tenchi Muyo isn't all it's cracked up to be, but it deserved better than this. This is the maddest I have ever been on this show and will likely ever be. I mean, unless I cover the third rebuild of Evangelion movie, but, oh, look at the time. I've got to go, rotate my wardrobe. I'll be sure to review something worth my time for the next episode. Or at least something healthier for me. Until then, see ya.
What possible reason could there be for making a joke out of my mother's death?